Hello, everybody.
Hello. Another office hours, Daniel.
Yeah, looking good.
The months come around quickly. It was only just a month ago where we did our first one.
It was, yeah, it was about a month ago, wasn't it? Yeah, down in London. So yeah, it's good. It's good to get another one out of the way and get another one. Show some stuff we got going on kind at the moment. You've made it down to Cambridge today.
Sure have. Well, you would say up actually. Up from London, I
Oh yeah, your
believe.
camera's not quite right. Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
fixing this camera
yeah,
real
you've
quick.
yeah come up from London to Cambridge today. Um, how was your train journey?
It was chill. It was fine. Took less than an hour. It's like quicker getting to Cambridge than quicker to get around London.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, we're actually today. I think we're at WeWork just next to Cambridge Station, which is quite convenient, shall we say?
Definitely. It's good to be here. We had a nice pizza for lunch at a nice
We did.
pub. It was
Did
awesome.
always have the pizza for lunch. Why not?
Daniel also got a haircut yesterday and was telling me something that I never knew happens before in a barber, where they actually put flames to your ears. It's insane. I never knew that was a thing.
Flaming ears, all good. Nicely singed, shall we say? So I think we've got some quite cool things to talk about today.
Sure have. And again, as always, if you have any questions, if you want us to talk about anything, just post in the chat and yeah, we'll respond to you and talk about anything that you request.
Yeah, say hi in the chat if you're around. It was good to see who's around and who's chatting and who's around, who's watching.
Also, it's always good just to intro ourselves. We always get stuck into things too early. I'm Oli. I'm the product manager here at Kind. Daniel, over to you.
Yeah, I'm Daniel, one of the engineers, predominantly looking around at SDKs and developer experience, but also do a bit of product development as well.
Awesome. Well, a lot of people requested a lot of things, so why don't we get started off with a few of the common requests we had. Daniel, over to you.
Yeah, I just realised I'm not quite set up for something. But one of the things which quite a lot of people talk about, which we get asks for, is MCP. And pleased to say we've got some bits coming in the pipeline for MCP at the moment. It's not quite ready for Prime, but we're getting extremely close. And I can show you some NPC stuff, but I failed to prepare myself a little bit more on this one. As most people are aware, MCP servers are okay. Yeah, so MCP is a way of AI to communicate with services. So you'd be able to use things like Cursor and Claude, etc., to carry out actions within Kind. And what I can do is I can just quickly share some bits of what's going on. So what you'll see here is my browser. So I'm in one of our testing areas, and I'm in a application here, looking at an API for a Kind Manager API. And if I come to view, I can add an API key. When I add it, there's a new option which will be available called can be used by an MCP server. If I just put MCP server, and then I just tick this box, and then you can add scopes to it. So I'm just going to go through and just add all of these. So common thing we get asked is why don't we have select all on these sort of things? It's actually a good question, and there's a good answer for it. So one of the things is obviously when you're setting up a management API or anything like MCP, you kind of want to be a bit selective about what scopes you really give. So you wouldn't really want to give everything access to it. And we think that adding a select all is maybe a bit, it encourages you to do things in a way which may not necessarily be too secure. So what we have here is I've created an API key. And there's a section down here called Add MCP Client. So you have here, we've got Cursor, we have Claude, and we also have a custom section as well, which you can define your snippets. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to my Cursor. So we have a nice, simple, quick access button here. So add to Cursor, and that will open up my Cursor. And what I'll do is I will now switch to the view to my Cursor view. And what you'll see now here is it's added in it's pre-opened up the dialog here to add the MCP server. And when I install that, it will load the tools up. So 23 tools have been added. So you can see it's added all these different role scopes, etc. I gave. These are all available. So what I can show now is for, I think on the, if I go back to my browser, you'll see that this account here has, I think, just one single user, which is me. So if I come back to my cursor, and I can just ask the AI, how many users do I have in kind? And it will go off and it will now check for me how many users I have in kind. And it will use the MCP server to do so. So it's found my one user. So that's all coming through nicely, and it all works. But it's not all you can do. Now, one thing you may notice is the scopes which are available to MCP does not equal the scopes which are available to our management API. And at the moment, that's intentional. We're having a bit of a cautious approach. We don't want it to be too destructive. So we've omitted out things like delete actions and update actions, particularly, which could be destructive. So we can see here we've got get roles and get users, etc. So it's primarily around reading. We do have the ability to create a subscriber, and we do have the ability to create permission, but we don't have a way to link in permissions to roles or anything like that at the moment through the MCP. That's not to say we won't add it. We're just we're building up the tooling at the moment. But what I can do, for example, is I can create a role on kind called finance. And that will go and it will go and create a role within kind, and create one called finance, and it will tell you what that key is.
While that's doing its thing, we have some questions.
Oh, cool. Brilliant.
So we got asked, what are some real world use cases for MCP on an auth database?
So databases, for example, if you may have, you may be doing some support, for example. So you could be looking at your user, like you want to find out what the user's ID is. You might have the email, so you can look up the user by that. You may want to be able to set up some things. So we're right now, as I said, we're not going to be doing. We haven't got right now creating permissions, creating roles, but it may be that you may be setting up your environment. You may want to just, instead of having to go into the admin panel, create all those roles, set all the permissions up. That's something you can do. Or if you've got a small set of users you want to import, that may be something which we currently don't do import users. But for example, you can import your subscriber list. If you've got a small CSV file, you want to just say, oh, could you just parse this CSV file? Can you just insert all the subscribers into the subscribers list? Obviously, AI is great at parsing a CSV file, and then you can use the MCP to import those. You could have roles you want to create your project manager may have just given you, again, a CSV file or a list of roles you want to create. You can just create all these roles on kind, and it will go through one by one and create them and give you all the IDs for them. So there's a way of linking it all up, how you would do that. What everyone wants to do with it is very open. And we are not against adding more things to this, for example, create user, etc. But we just want to make sure we've just got that cautious approach. We're going to phase this out. So the first part is going to be what you're seeing here is these options, but we'll add in more as we're going through. Hope that answers the question.
Sure does. There's another question saying, are there any risks of inaccuracies using an AI for this?
And this is entirely why we're being a little bit cautious with it. Yes, there is also hallucinations in AI is a very big problem. This is why we haven't put destructive like delete users, etc. If we add delete users, I don't know if we will add that destructive kind of things, not without some kind of caveat. There is a possibility of some level of inaccuracies and hallucinations and not getting it quite right. We've tried to be quite explicit. Our management API kind of supports things in quite a natural way, single purpose endpoints. So we don't necessarily have the issue where people is going to start doing all kind of weird, crazy things. But there's always a risk of AI around that. But we're trying to be that cautious side of it. So we're not going to end up having destructive mechanisms. I think that maybe something we'll shy away from, because we want to protect the data as much as we can. So trying to have it so we don't have those sort of problems is going to be the best approach. But yeah, good questions, and it's something which we're still trying to flush out and making sure that we get it right, because we just don't want to. Your users' data is your users' data, and your login data is very valuable, and so we want to make sure that while we give this functionality available, which we are commonly asked for MCP, MCP is not something which we're just adding just because it's cool to add. We're getting quite a lot of people asking now for this kind of capabilities so they can use them. But we're just making sure that we do it in a way which isn't going to put your data at risk of being broken.
There's more comments about this in the chat as well, Daniel. So someone said, I feel like this would be a great way to quickly seed a development tenant for account testing, maybe more destruction permissions on a dev instance. I definitely agree with that thought. Something to think about, something we could look into.
Certainly, yeah, that's a great suggestion, having it so we have on your non-production environment, having the destructive mechanisms. Being one thing is that having it so you can tear down your environment, so that to remove all of your roles, all your permissions, and then re-add them in again and start, that kind of thing. A tear down would be quite useful to do through this, and having a kind of a script ready in your AI tool of choice. Entirely, that's something which is a great suggestion. We can add that to the list of options which we can do. 100%.
Definitely agree. There's another comment. It seems like people are loving this topic of MCP.
By the way, this is quite fresh. This actually got put on this environment today. This is a really a very, very, very hot off the press thing. So it's really good to be able to show it off.
We'll be releasing this very soon, but it's not available for use yet, but very, very soon. There's another comment here. The question was, is there a way to get just docs for the MCP? I don't trust LLM to handle anything like that. I assume like that they're referring to what you showed, Daniel.
Yeah, so I mean the docs. So this is all based off our management API. So all of these calls here, the MCP will be hooking into our management API, and it's generating a key to be able to use that. So the docs and what you can do is all available through our management API, management SDK API. So not SDK, just the management API. So you can be able to do all of these actions and more using a standard REST API, and not via the RESTful. Is that the right sort of, is that what you're asking?
If we didn't answer your question correctly, please respond back. There is another follow-up question here. And the question is there any way for the MCP to serve the library? I assume they mean one of the kind open source libraries here.
Not too sure. Follow the question. If you've got a product like, for example, anything which supports MCP, you'll be able to use the MCP server in there. So that's whether that's Claude, Cursor. If you've got one of the Warp client, it is the terminal client, anything like that. Anything you have which supports MCP, you'll be able to use the MCP server in that product to be able to perform real language actions on the kind management API on the scopes which have been defined. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes. This is something really exciting. We've had this in the works for a bit of time. There's just making sure that we get the ins and outs of it right. We take the cautious approach of an AI. I think like most people are, where it's making sure that we get the right things for the right fit, and we don't put anyone's data at risk. And that's our biggest, not hesitance, but biggest cautious approach around things, just making sure that we don't break your data, because the last thing we want to do is give the capability to do MCP and then some rogue AI client decides that it's going to blat all the data.
Awesome. There were two other comments here that I just want to add. So one was that you can add MCPs in Cursor through a simple one-click way to do it. There's a URL that someone posted in the chat. Thanks for that. And there's also another comment around a great use case for what you just showed, Daniel, which is around giving non-technical people read access to certain things that give them oversight. Yeah, great example. Like marketing teams wanting to get information on certain users or subscribers.
Yeah, it's very much like a read approach. Like, for example, you could give your support team access to particular roles in MCP. Can you tell me what roles this user has? Can you tell me what permissions this user has? Could you tell me more about this user? And you can read the properties for the user. So let's say, for example, you're holding a couple of bits of information about a user in the metadata against that user. You'll be able to query that information out as well via the MCP. So it's given the ability to other tooling. It may also be that you may have a support product which supports MCP, which you'll be able to hook into based on the email address and linking through to Kinde to get some more information about that user. For example, like the last logged in, I think it shows on my the last logged in of that when I queried the user, it showed that no sign. I'm not signed in using this account yet. If the account's active or not, for example, so it gives you all this kind of information around that user, which is really powerful for support teams and, as Oli said, non-technical users who doesn't have access to an API or hasn't got access to your Kinde backend admin area. It gives access to that information, which is useful.
Awesome. We will definitely let you know when this is live. Again, this is an early sneak preview, and we're going to jump to a few other features, but keep the questions coming. I love to see them. Daniel, why don't we jump to some more portal features, some sneak peeks and some things that are actually live as well. I'm going to get you to drive your computer to show a few things. So
let's go for it.
Apologies, this one may be a bit junky because I'm going to tell Daniel what to do. Daniel, let's first jump to the Kinde admin and just show a few things if you don't mind.
Yeah,
let's actually showcase API keys in the portal because that is live for everyone. Let's do that first. So first, a reminder, just if you go to settings, Daniel, in portal, you'll see a whole bunch of toggles and you can enable a lot of things in the portal. And
so this is the self-hosted portal within Kinde. So that's yeah.
Yep. So the top part is for user management details in the portal, and the bottom one is organization management details. Obviously, if you don't use organizations, then that's not applicable. But here's just a few things, and it'll make more sense once we jump to the portal as to what these toggles do. We have not enabled the billing toggles here because we showed billing in the portal in our last office hours, so going to skip over that for now. But yeah, Daniel, that's now actually showed up our portal. So let's log in and then jump to the actual portal. So Daniel's going to do that. He's just going to log in with Google, and then he's going to jump to the portal. Again, just to emphasize, this is a Kinde hosted portal, but you can configure what's shown here, like I just showed a second ago. There's a few things here. Let's first do API keys, and let's just do it for organizations, but it's very similar for account, which is just user. An account could be, the use case could be a B2C product, but I feel like it's just easier to show on organizations. So let's create an API key. I'll explain a few details as we go through this. So we want to create an API key and give this certain client an API key that gives them access to certain things in the API that they're hosting. And in this case, we've already created some APIs. We've created a buyer API, and if you go to that drop down, then you'll also see supply is just a dummy example where your business has certain buyers and certain merchants. And let's say this client is a merchant. So let's go to the merchant API. Let's just say it's a merchant team member. So we don't want to give them all scopes. We don't want to give them all access to everything. So just give it a bit of a name, Daniel. Maybe call it merchant team member.
Merch. Let's go with merch. There you go.
Whatever you want to call it. And let's say they can just add merchant items. So again, hypothetical example. This is a marketplace, and we only allow the team member to add, but we don't allow them to remove. So let's save that. And then you'll see certain details about the API keys. As you can see at the top there's certain details here that you can only see now and you cannot see it again. So store it in a safe place. And also, we're going to delete all these API keys. So even if you noted it down, it won't be valid after this recording. Let's copy the API keys here, Daniel. But yeah, just scroll down, show a few details. You can see all the details in the scopes and APIs. But we're going to copy the API key.
So if anyone watching outside in the world, the account we're looking at here is based in Australia account. That's why the time is 1:49. So it's if you're watching from anywhere else in the world, it's not the time is wrong. It's based on the business time region. So if you create a UK business, this time will be based on the UK time.
Good call out, Daniel. And then you can see a few details like what API this API key gives you access to, what scopes you have as well. Again, we like to think of scopes as permissions at the API level, but they are obviously scopes.
Okay.
Cool. So have you copied that?
I have copied it.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
Cool.
And again.
Now let's verify that API key. So it kind of gives you abilities to verify API keys, because what you can do as well is you can revoke keys, you can delete keys to make it invalid. What you want to make sure when someone makes a call to your API, it's actually one, a valid API key, and two, it has the right scopes for the permissions or actions they want to take. So we have this API endpoint, as you can see.
It's going to come to a better view. I was just checking it out, but yeah. Okay, so
yeah, let's jump to your. We're going to use Postman to show this. Yeah, that's much better, Daniel. Nice. Let's add the API key into the body.
This one I just created now, and so I can hit. The base URL / API v1 API keys verify, and we hit send on that.
Cool. Let's do it. Cool. And as you can see, they've got a 200 back. It has the scopes. It has the key ID as well, so you can find out more details through the key ID. And the org code as well. What org is trying to, what org code this API key is assigned to. And these are all relevant details to give certain access rights to people, your clients who want to access an API. So yeah, that's API keys from a very high level. Obviously, it's quite a developer feature. There's many use cases here. Feel free to reach out with any questions, but that's pretty much it. Everything I showed you, or we showed you, it wasn't necessarily me, you can do in the client admin as well, and APIs. So you can do everything like create the API keys through the client admin and through the API. It's any way you see fit. We just showed you the portal to show how easy it is to self-serve your clients to create and manage API keys as well. Cool.
Yeah, so I was going to get the documentation up for our management API quickly.
Yeah, why not?
So you can see what we can do for API keys. So I'm just showing my screen for that. So yeah, as we can see here, we have within our API key here, we've got the ability to, hopefully you can see that. We've got API key, get, create. We've got two gets in there at the moment. So keys, you've got API keys, API key. So you can get all your API keys here based on a query. And then you've got get API, delete API key. You can rotate it as well. So if it gets leaked somewhere, you can rotate the key. And then you've got the verify as well. And endpoints as we just demonstrated. I think you noticed there the user ID was null in the one we had in Postman. That's because it was an organization key. It'd be equivalent round if you did one for the user as well. So
awesome.
That should be fine.
Cool. Should we jump?
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions about API keys, throw them in the chat and we'll answer the best we can.
With all these features as well, if you have a question, like I know a lot of people will be watching the recording, or those who are watching it live and you have a question later, just reach out through support or to our team through other channels. For any questions and anything we showed, we'll be happy to explain more details. Why don't we jump to another portal feature that isn't live for everyone yet, but will be live very soon, and that is the self-serve SSO connection. So yeah. Daniel, let's jump back to the portal. Before we jump into that as well, there was a comment earlier about SLAs. I forgot to comment on that. I will comment on that after this feature. So now let's jump to SSO on the side nav, if you can, Daniel.
Yeah.
So again, another use case for this is that a client of yours wants to set up an SSO enterprise connection with Google Workspace, or Entra ID, or Okta, or any IDP. And before this feature, what you would have to do is that client would have to contact someone in your team and communicate on credentials, make sure it's communicating in a secure fashion to set up that enterprise connection. And what we see a lot of the time is there's a lot of back and forth to set it up, just for little things that need to be configured. And we thought, why not release the ability to allow clients to set up and manage their SSO connections themselves, hopefully without even having to communicate with your team. And that's where this feature comes in. So
just think, before we show this, I think we're about to set up an SSO connection, but should we just try logging in with the email address and you'll see it won't work?
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
We can
so
do that.
we're going to sign within Ollie's, sign out. We're going to sign using Ollie's account here. So we're going to go oliver.wolf@kind.com.
Daniel's impersonating me today
Yeah.
because I logged in on my details.
So now log in here, I'll get given the code, which is what happens, which I think everyone's kind of familiar with.
Yep.
So that's what's happening right now. So that's the de facto we have at this very moment in time. So that just gives you an indication of what we're going to try and change. And that will go through the enterprise connection. Is that correct?
That's true. Perfect. So Daniel, let's go back to the portal then. And let's set up a connection. Again, one thing to call out as well is links to the portal are unique links that can be sent to created users. So let's say you have a client and the admin of that client wants to set up this SSO connection. They obviously don't want to log into your application yet because that connection's not set up yet. You can send them a unique link to this portal. And if that user authenticated with that email and the certain system permissions, they can set up SSO and then themselves and the rest of their team can log in. I'll repeat that one more time. Let's say you have a client, they want to set up SSO themselves before they ever authenticate into your application. That is possible because you can generate a unique link to the portal for a user that's created on your system. They can set up SSO and then they themselves can log in through that SSO and the rest of their teammates. So, and there's also a good comment in the thread. There's SSO, there's at least one SSO on all our plans. For Plus and Scale, there's unlimited SSO included in the base price. Currently, what we're showing you as well, we're figuring out, the ability to do self-serve SSO. We're figuring out the best way and which plan this should be on as well. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah. So which one am I going to for this one?
So let's go to Microsoft Entra ID OAuth 2.
Okay.
We're going to enter some credentials. We're going to revoke those credentials after this call. So if you get hold of them and you screenshot this, have fun with them because they're going to be wiped from the face of the earth. Cool. Daniel, let's put in kind.com in the Microsoft Entra ID domain.
You shared some details with me earlier on, didn't you? So I'm going to copy these across.
I did. So we're just entering some details to basically do a handshake between an Entra ID tenant that we've sent up and kind. We're shortcutting a lot of details here. There's tons of documentation on kind that walks through very clearly how to do this. Cool. Let's go down. And let's enable this for application. And before you click save, Daniel, let's check if we've enabled kind as well at the top.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Cool. So what happens at that as well? That's an important thing to know.
I think my token may have expired for my time. Okay, 2 seconds. My timeout, my portal expired.
I'll explain one thing while Daniel's doing that. So at the top, what that is when you tick kind is that's basically enabling kind as home realm domain. We have documentation what a home realm domain is, but you'll see it very soon. A home realm domain is basically mapping an enterprise connection to a domain that's entered in the email field. So after this is enabled, whenever I go to the kind page that doesn't specify an org code, and I enter a domain an email that has a domain kind, will redirect me to this connection. And let's say we had another connection that had like abc.com as the domain. After enabling that connection, if I go back, go to the email field, type in Oli at abc.com, and let's say there was a valid user, it will redirect me to another connection. It's basically mapping a domain to an enterprise connection.
Yep. So let's enable this now. Let's save.
Let's do it.
That's all saved. Perfect. So
cool.
If this all works now.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, I've got to sign out now. That's why I stopped the other portal, because I signed out before. That's why it broke. So, all at kind.com.
One thing to know as well, on Daniel's machine, I'm already authenticated with oliver.wolf at kind.com on a Entra ID instance. So if this works correctly, which it should, it won't hop to Entra ID, and it'll just go directly to the dashboard, which it did because it silently hopped to Entra ID, knew that I was already authenticated with oliver.wolf at kind.com, and just jumped to the dashboard. And there you go. Now you and other team members as well, once they've been provisioned, or if they're just-in-time provisioning, all those with that domain kind.com and they exist in that Azure AD tenant can authenticate into the application, and it's as easy as that.
Yep.
Cool, we have a question. Does your auth use third-party cookies? I had issues with Manifest v3 with competitors before with sessions expiring. Daniel, that's more of a question to you.
So I think one thing worth mentioning is that what we do is the token which is supplied back to the user is the kind token. So although you're authenticating through onto Microsoft, you're using the kind token when it comes back. Via workflows, you can have a look at what that token looks like and you can change it, but we don't rely on any cookies outside of your domain.
Awesome. Also, on the question about SLAs, so we provide SLAs in our kind care support packages. We constantly achieve, and we will take no less than 4 nines. That we are infrastructure. We have to have uptime that is constantly available, and we don't settle for anything less than 4 nines. So if you're interested in SLAs, there is a kind care support package, which is an add-on on all our paid plans, and you can see more details about that on our website.
On that third-party cookies, if there's any particular examples or more details, because it can get quite complicated in that area, just feel free to drop a message to support. If you want to make it for attention of myself, I can have a look and come back to you in more details if need be.
Cool. All right, let's talk about another feature that is on the cusp of being released as well. Custom auth 2 connections. Daniel, do you mind going to the kind admin?
Kind admin, yeah. Okay.
Cool, so let's go to settings. Let's go to authentication.
Yep.
And let's create a social connection. Cool, so there is a new tile there, as you can see, custom auth 2. Let's click on it and create it.
Yep.
And there's just a few details here. I'm not going to go through and actually create one, but there's a few details here where it's basically connecting kind to a auth 2 provider. And that can be any auth 2 compliant provider that basically allows you to log in using that IDP, auth 2 IDP, and kind as a service provider, but allows you to log into your application with any auth 2 compliant IDP. And there's a few details that are standard across the protocol that you can see here. This feature is in beta, so if you reach out to us, we can enable it for your account. And also the previous feature, the SSO via the portal, is also in beta. So if you reach out to us, again, through support or any other channels, you can get access to that.
Good stuff. There's
another question in the chat. So is the kind token locked to a verified domain in production? Am I able to add more domains where login can be shared, e.g. foo.com, login works on bar.com? I guess, are you asking if you can log in with many domains into the same kind business?
So
into the kind.
Yeah, domain? I mean, we can start whilst the back high level is when you log in, you supply a callback URL, so that can be on any kind of any URL you wish. The URL, as pretty much any auth supplier would be, is you have to whitelist that. So if I come into this application here, so we've got a React application, you have to supply allow callback URLs, and that's really where you're going to be going back to. So if this is a React application, but you can have the application hosted on 3 or 4 different domains, and they can all get called back to that domain. That will be where that is going back to. Each SDK varies. So front end SDKs like this one predominantly has like a root level, and the provider within React is the one that handles that callback. Some of our full stack applications like our Next SDK and our Nux SDK and our Java, for example, will have different kind of structure to the callback URLs, but they can be shared. So when we're labeling this up here, the framework, and we just do display this lovely icon here, this doesn't necessarily mean that this application can only be used by React. It can be used by any front end based application. What it does is gives you a bit more context around the quick start, and it just allows you to get quick access to some help and documentation around that.
There's a follow-up question as well. So yes, we do use JWTs.
Yeah.
And the question is, what would be the AUD for those, the callback URL or something else?
The AUD will be from the audience being requested. You can change you can ask for a particular audience, so you can pass that across as part of your authentication flow, and which ones you wish to use for that flow. If you reach out for our support, we can get into more details around that. We're happy to handle that for you and get that sent over, just to make it clear.
These are great questions. Keep them coming.
Within our JavaScript stuff, we got some really, we have our decoders and verifiers and stuff. We got some packages around that. We also have a utility framework which allows you to define your token. You get access to pretty much everything you want to be able to do within your token. So we got some good helpers around that to drive that forward. And then when you contact us, make sure to mention what SDK you're using, so we can be very specific around how we guide and advise and give you some code examples as well.
Awesome. There's another comment there that there's really good customization. We do that on purpose. Our platform is very abstract. We want to cover a whole bunch of different models, business models, but also we want to allow people to customize whatever they want to the nth extent. We emphasize smart defaults. What I mean by smart defaults is we have defaults for all things, and these are ways we think in the simplest form for most cases kind should be set up, but then you can customize the tokens, you can do workflows to add extra information to the tokens, you can customize many different things. That was just one example, and we do that on purpose.
Yeah. So was that question about potential custom portals?
I'll read out the question, everybody's aware. Is there the potential for custom portals in the future akin to custom auth pages?
This is something which we're certainly looking at. There's a lot of moving parts around the portal. We aim to have some level of customization around that. Right now, I don't know of any timescales on when we're going to be having the full customization flow on there. But yeah, we'd hope to be able to bring as much richness as we can throughout the. So I think we've got some people not familiar with Kind, but we have the ability to define your own custom UI. So while we have under design, we have the ability to define some logos, some fab icons, and some extra colors, etc. This is our out of the box, if you like, default customization, and you can come in here, you can change some text, so you can pick which page you want to change, and you can change the text to be whatever you wish to do. If you've got multi-languages, you can change this also by language. But we also have the custom code option, and as we can see here, we've got some examples of some custom code on the login page. I think if I go to one of my own personal testing, you can ignore this, but if I go sign in, you can see this is, again, a whole different, I've got fancy spinning images and stuff which are broken in the background, but there's animations you can have on there by CSS. You can completely customize the look and feel. The only thing you can't change is the structure of this bit in the middle here. That's placed by Kind. You just sort of say display the widget, but everything else is customizable via CSS variables, and anything you wish to change, you can change. And I have to say, I'm blown away by some of the examples which people, when I see see some of the things which people are using for Kind, you can't even tell it's a Kind log on screen half the time. It's pretty impressive.
So yeah, there's a lot of customization in Kind. One person who called out about the portal, yes, it was released not too long ago, and we released it in its bare bones, meaning like there's not too much customizations, but the use cases are there. It's very much on our roadmap to allow more customization. We have a PR for custom domain support as well on those portals, and just allow for fully fledged customization, similar to customization for the Kind auth pages. So there's definitely lots of room to make that more customizations on portals, and it's very much on our radar to do so.
The main challenge we have is where on the login flow, we just have input boxes and a couple of buttons and some small UI elements. If you think we've got all these different we've got context menus, we've got all these kind of things on how people want those to look. So it's making sure we can get all of those customized and themed up as needed, basically.
There was a comment here as well about how some vendors lock in for security. For example, you can't set a local host callback URL on production apps. And this person said it makes sense, but breaks certain flows such as Electron. I assume you set safe defaults, but allow the users to perform actions like this that usually wouldn't be recommended.
I don't think we've got restrictions around that actually within our portal. Really, a lot of those are down to trusting it's not. I think, as pointed out, you could have certain kind of schemas and rule sets which are actually needed to function. So yeah, I think quite often as well is there's a lot of people may just create get set up with all running through the production, and they may just be testing locally. It's certainly something we could look at, putting some kind of warning on the thing saying, by the way, this is your production, maybe don't use local host. But there's something which we don't enforce any blocks on that currently.
Good question then.
Yeah, very good question.
Keep the questions coming. Should we move on to something else that people have asked us to talk about?
Yeah, can do. What's the next on the list you got?
iFrame authentication.
iFrame authentication. We get this asked every now and then, and currently on how can I make kind work within an iFrame. And the answer to the question now is quite simple. We've got some tooling around, especially around our JavaScript SDKs. We're adding more support and broadening this out as we roll this out a little bit more. But what I can show you here is I think I have a iFrame iframe.html. Okay, so this is basically the same application you've just seen. So it's localhost 3000 running in an iFrame. So it's no different with an application you had before. But the difference is now as I hit login, you'll get a pop-up window appear. And this pop-up window is now handling the authentication for you. So when I hit continue and sign in, am I logging into a weird organization? Oh, because I'm using kind.com. I need to turn off the SSO now.
Yeah. Probably just.
I might need to log out.
No, if you pause it, connection.
Yeah, I might need to log in again as you to get access to the panel. Or can you just disable it from your side?
Yes, I can.
So what's happened there is because we set up the enterprise connection, I'm trying to log in using my kind.com email address in Google, and it's telling me that I can't do so because
it's disabled.
It's restricted now to the enterprise connection, so that's been enforced.
Cool. It's been disabled.
Okay, perfect. So if I start the flow again, and I can now sign in, and as you can see, I'm now signed in directly through into the iFrame, and again, I can sign out. And that's all fine. That's all going to be signing in and then out, all inside that iFrame. Where this is useful is you've got something like, quite often we have it where your product may be part of another product, and having it so you can maybe even pass a token in. We're going to be having functionality to do that at some point, but it could be that you just need to sign into that part of that product, but within another window. This happens quite often, sometimes in the healthcare sector, where you're having to authenticate into other products to find some information about the patient or other kind of systems and setups. You would be authenticating inside an iFrame within that application. So this allows that to happen. This happens out of the box, so there's no configuration needed. If you're using the React SDK today, feel free to stick it in an iFrame and have a go. It will just work. So stick it in an iFrame, it will work out what it needs to do, how it needs to authenticate you. It will just happen without any code and any changes needed. So you also got the flexibility there of knowing that if your application's used in or without an iFrame, it can be done. The pop-up mode is also enforceable. So if you prefer having it so your users log in via a pop-up, I believe that I know that I built the functionality so that can happen. I added the feature. So you'll be able to force the pop-up to be shown as the authentication flow.
There was a question as well. How do you prevent click jacking within iframes?
So it's looking at the within this iFrame, it's coming back. So what this is doing is it's triggering the pop-up to redirect back, and it's just doing message listeners. So it's not actually doing the authentication. The Windows is waiting for an authentic method coming back from the opener. So it has to come back from the window which has been opened, and then it will verify the token when it comes back.
Awesome. There was a question about whether we support magic links. So we don't support magic links. We purposely don't. We only support email one-time passwords. We've found that magic links, one, a lot of people have extensions on their browser that will scan links and then make them invalid. And also it's easy for them to be shared with colleagues, much easier than email one-time passwords. So we emphasize email one-time passwords and don't support magic links.
There is also a common problem which we've come across. We've trialed it before, where what happens is that antivirus softwares actually click the links. So they will check to see whether the link is good or bad. And so we've had it before where when we trialed doing something similar, we had some feedback which, well, this link is not working. It said it's already been used. And we found that it was down to spam checks. And this happens quite a lot in the enterprise world, where you'll get an email and the enterprise check will make sure that the email link's not malicious and it's going through to the right places, etc. So that's, again, it's a challenging thing. And we find that it's mostly not as secure because you can, as Oli said, you can share the links with your colleagues. It's not necessarily that a safe way of logging in. The password and the one-time password is a good secure way of doing it. I think that's the best approach. Feel free to be challenged on that. We want to be challenged, and we want to find the right balance between security and also usability as well. And we don't want you guys to get stumbled with loads of support queries where the magic links don't work because someone's spam protections clicked it.
Cool. There is a few comments in the chat. I'm just trying to get some confirmation on what they're trying to ask. Cool. So someone's asking whether we support this flow where basically in the URL you have, for example, like my app, and then there's like a query of like token equals XYZ, sort of like a link, a special link that deep links that person into the application. They're asking if we support this.
So I think what I'd recommend is to go back and watch the last All Hands. The last open office we had was we talked about device authentication, and so I haven't got it to demonstrate today. Although I can maybe see if my Warp client has it running. So if people can see this, I'm not sure. But if I type in kind login, it's not working. I haven't prepared this one. I haven't set up this this application. But
I think I know what this person's like asking. Like, for example, with Figma, you click on the link, and I can see silently or sometimes explicitly it checks whether I'm authenticated by going to like the desktop application or some other application, and then I'm already authenticated in the browser because it already checked with another connection. And I see, I've seen this happen with Spotify as well. I guess whoever's asking this question, reach out to us in support, get a few, or ask you for a few more details. There's many ways to use kind, and I'm quite optimistic we can support this, but we probably need to know a few more details.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we have it. The callback URL will be something which you'll be able to do there. We have a prompt that you can pass across prompt none, which will basically just validate that you're logged in. So you can pop up the browser, get the prompt none, that will return back a code, and then you'll be able to get the token from that. So there are ways you can double check via the browser, is there an authenticated session, and it will return back the tokens back to you. So there are ways we can do that. Again, that will be down to callback URLs, protection, and that kind of stuff, but we can certainly help resolve that. We have in fact, we can maybe give it a shout out right now as one of the applications we're using is to do this stream right now is Meld Studio. It seems to be a quite a cool upcoming app. They're actually a kind customer. We found them from them starting using us, and we found that their login flow, it's a desktop app, and that, like as you're describing, it pops up, authenticates, and then redirects back to the application to sign in. So that's something which we have. We do have many customers using Kind as a desktop application. I know a good handful on the top of my head. So Meld Studio, which we're using right now, is one of them.
Just to explain more about Meld quickly as well. Basically, they allow you to create different scenes and rearrange what you're seeing in your camera view, and that'll propagate to all different live streaming services like we're streaming live on Twitch, and it's really easy to use. So shout out to them. They've created amazing software that allowed us to do this office hours.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about, Daniel? We haven't got much time. We've got about 9 minutes.
Cool. I mean, we've got some people talk. I mean, the conversation about workflows came up.
Let's do it.
We could just quickly show a couple of workflow examples.
We've added some more recently as well that have been called out.
So a couple of things. Workflows is set up within the Kind dashboard. So what it's allowed you to do is it's one of my favorite features. So you connect up to a GitHub repo, same as you would do for the design. And the reason we do the connect up to the GitHub repo is everybody likes their own code to be their own code. So while obviously some suppliers of these kind of situations where you have workflows or equivalent set up, you would copy and paste your code into their editor within their browser, and you would be bound to using that kind of setup. What we thought actually, well, really having it go into a GitHub repo where you have control of the code, your own lint rules, your own testing you may want to do on that code, that's all available to you however you wish to do that. And we got a few examples here. So for example, this is adding some custom claims to the user token. So we have a Kind infrastructure package, which is a helper library for this. You supply the settings around the workflow. So this is on token generation. So every single time a user token is generated, this will get triggered. And if it fails, it would stop working. There's a couple of policies you can continue or stop, really. I think continue is the other one. But you can, on stop, it would be if something within this blows up badly and it doesn't work. You have to say what you want it to have access to. Keep this lean. The smaller it is, the faster it will run. So this is saying that this workflow has access to the access token, can do an external fetch. It has access to the Kind environment variable, so that's not the .env file you're maybe used to within the setup, and that would be the Kind environment variable. So we have that within here, home, and in settings we have environment variables. So you can define your own variables. We have customers using this for many different purposes, including storing some third-party keys and stuff. This calls out to an API key, some CRM passing of the API key, and then hasn't got any content. It's just calling a get command on the key. And this is adding the company name. So here, adding a custom claim. It's fully type-scripted. So when you say accessing custom claims, you pass in here your type, and then you'll have full access to setting up the CRM data, putting in whatever's coming back here. So this is all typed as well. So if you put in access token.abc, it wouldn't let you run that in your TypeScript. It will say it's not quite valid. So this is one example, just adding extra claims to your token. One good example for this would be if you've got like a membership benefit system and you want to call out to that benefit system with the user's email to find out whether or not they're signed up to your VIP plan, and then you want to add a token saying VIP, it will get added to the signed token. So it can't be played with, it's played or part of the signed token. You've got this pre-MFA one here, which this one allows you to set up the kind of to do basically set up some extra around MFA and whether or not you're wanting the MFA to have to ask multiple times in a particular time frame. So this will allow you to not enforce it over and over and over again in a short period. You can change that.
Sorry, Daniel. Sorry to cut you off. There's another new workflow example that I thought it's worth shouting out. I think it's under post user authentication. Go under there.
As here we've got impossible travel, so it is great if you want to protect your user account here. So you see one user's logged in London and then you log in Singapore, and there's no way that they could get there in time. That's one here you can do, which is a great useful one. I think one thing to call out is like, while we could add this native, by adding it native, it adds more functionality, more bulk, more features and stuff, which is great. But this is all completely possible via workflows, and we will try to expand out these workflows. We're going to try and making these more accessible and getting into kind as easy as possible. So these are all examples here. You can just pretty much drop into your GitHub repo, hit the synchronize button, and they're on your account. And then you have control of the code, and you can change how that behavior works, and how all this kind of hangs together. But is there a particular one you wanted to show?
There was one that was added recently. You can see last month, the sync attribute SAML workflow. So this ties into the SSO portal, the SO features in the portal. So let's say you set up a SAML connection with Kind, and then in that SAML connection, the IDP, let's say it's Google Workspace, you have certain users that are admins, you have other users who are team members or owners, and you want to pull that information into your application. This workflow allows you to do that. It pulls that information into the token, and then your application has context of more context around the user that's logging in.
Well, you said it brings it into the token. Properties are not by default added to the token. These worth pointing out. So they're added to the user. Much. You can call them down the management API. So within the management API, we have users, and then we can get users property update and get user property values. But within the Kind admin area, if I go to the right place, if I add a quick property to here, so properties, we got a bunch of them in here already. If I come to the application, so this is to customize an application level, not as a system level. But you can come down here, access token, an ID token. You can now customize, and you can add what you want to add to those tokens. So you can see all these custom properties, what you wish to be added to the token, and they will be added automatically for you in there. So you can add all the roles they're having. You can add what organization name. So that's not by default. We tried to keep the tokens lean. If we add bulk to the tokens, that is each request you're using with that uses that token, it makes that request larger. So we try to make it as small as possible, as lean as possible. So we're not bulking up the token to be too large. But we give you the option to change that around. You can even modify some of our properties. I think we have some people who take how we do properties by default, and they just change how properties are reflected in the token to more meet their needs, and that's entirely possible through workflows as well.
Sure is. There's so much you can do with workflows. It's really endless possibilities.
It's one of my favorite features.
If you have certain use cases that you think can be solved by workflows, but you're not sure exactly how, just reach out to us in support. We can help you out.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we have 2 minutes left. Why don't we wrap it up?
So you've got more questions?
There is actually another question I was about to ask. So is there any info you guys can give about the company? Are you guys based in Australia? I'm in New Zealand. Love to see people from New Zealand this call. I know it's really early there. Most of the company is based in Australia, but we have people all over the world. I recently moved with the company from Sydney to London. Me and Daniel, we're both just outside London, so in the UK, but most of the team is based in Australia, and we have lots of customers in New Zealand, but we have coverage 24/7 support coverage all over the world.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, and we have lots of Kiwi friends, so it's good to see that. Okay, we have a minute left. I just want to remind everyone that we do office hours on a constant basis. People who reach out through forms that you can see in the recordings or in our community channels or social posts, there'll be a link to a form where you can suggest questions or topics that you want us to cover in future office hours, and also subscribe to details about office hours. Again, if you heard anything that interests you, or maybe we didn't cover something that you want us to cover, reach out to us in support, or however you contact the Kind team. where you can ask any questions, answer any questions about anything we showed, or any features we didn't show. Just reach out and have a conversation with us. And sign up to Kinde for free at kinde.com. You don't have to put any payment details. You can test basically everything we showed you for free just by making an account.
Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining in. And cheers for the great questions. It's always great to see some engagement on that.
And see you next time.
Thank you very much.